Welcome to another Friday Night Live, this time from Chicago. I'm so excited to be here. Chicago is always an amazing city, even though I haven't seen much of the city. And well, the Chicagoans are always amazing people, and I have met a lot of Chicagoans. So, what do I mean when I say I haven't seen much of the city? Well, there's a place where I'm staying, so that's in the outskirts of Chicago, in this case, Burbank. It's a place I know very well. Well, very well is a big word, but I know where to do my grocery shopping. I know how to get places. And quite honestly, Chicago has this system, it's called the L train. And oh my God, that brings you to places so quickly. It's going to the L train and afterwards leaving the L train and then going on, which actually takes all the time. Now, as for going downtown, that's what I haven't done yet. That's on my list this weekend. But on the other hand, I have done an immense lot of walking earlier today, because I went to see Chicago PD perform, as in record in the streets. And yeah, as always, I have been so surprised, so impressed with all the work that they do, the number of shots that have to be done and redone in order to make it look good from all angles. And, you know, I remember from when I was at Academy of Arts and when we had to do storyboards, that basically there's a whole lot of illusion. So you set something in motion, uh, but the time spending there is limited to what actually matters. And of course, you're not going to put everything which matters, which doesn't matter, you're not going to include it, right? So I came back just before midnight and I was like, oh, I'm going to go live around midnight. And then I was like, yeah, you know what? I need a few hours of sleep just, to get myself a little bit more energized. And so my Friday Night Live is still Friday Night Live, as in the night following Friday. But yes, I am aware that in some European countries it's already well within the day. And that's kind of funny if you think about it, because normally when I do it around this time in the Netherlands, it is still very much nighttime over here in Florida, or not over here in Florida, over here in Chicago or in Florida, or well, wherever in LA. So now, talking about Florida, I just made a an overview. Like, okay, where have I been in the last couple of weeks? Now, I started out in LA, and I watched there. Well, I actually was a big part, or as in, uh, I participated. Didn't just watch. We did exercises with all of us together. So if you go somewhere live, when it comes about live training, I love the online live training. It always makes me feel that I am around, and we do online breakout groups. But it's still a little bit different when you are there and you are joining the dinners and all that stuff. So it felt like being fully submerged in being there, and it was not just the first and the second, which is normal for Brandenburg charts. It was also the third and fourth, because there was training, the coaching summit training, and One of the things that I love to attend is the coaching summit because there are always so many things to learn. So that's what I did. Now, straight after I went to Florida, and it wasn't until I actually arrived here that I realized that, I don't know, it's like a whole bunch of days that I stayed there and basically did nothing. Well, I did write, I did record videos, but normally I go out, and I have only done so like twice, maybe three times, and that's weird. That's not me. And I haven't said much about it, but it had to do with identity theft. So the friend I was staying at was experiencing identity theft, and it wasn't just about stealing her identity as in getting access to her bank account. We're talking about getting access to, in this case, her Apple account, and apparently Apple didn't want to do too much with it. I have been so surprised how people can just order phones, uh, get subscriptions already. How do I say this? When you already have a subscription going on and people just go get a second one, it just doesn't seem to make sense. You get what I mean? It was a very intense week and a half. Well, actually, it was almost 2 weeks. And there was a lot of, well, when I say it, I didn't feel safe because of everything that was going on. That's an understatement. So, one of the reasons that I didn't leave is because the people also had access to the house. And well, especially when there are animals involved, you don't want anyone to get hurt. And also, you don't want to get anything missing. So it was weird. There was only one set of keys, and well, either I took them with me or she did, and then, well, basically, we couldn't go out. So there was a lot of turmoil, and there was a lot of talking. And I guess my main role in all of it was collecting evidence, recording videos, screenshots, all those kind of things. Well, all those kind of things that are needed to actually prove something is going on. And that's what I did. But did I sleep very well? Well, no, especially not when there was a lot of noise audible going on in the attic. And I couldn't explain what was going on. And that's what I mean. I felt like I got stuck in some kind of movie where I didn't want to be in. And quite honestly, I had experienced that before. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to do this again. Well, actually, I did do it again. But at some point, I was like, I need to get out of here. So that's what I did. I already planned on going to Chicago. So that's good. But I didn't realize until I actually left and entered Chicago. And it was a weird feeling how much I had missed. I remember entering Chicago and thinking, oh, yeah, we're in Florida. And what I mean is that I saw all these things which I know from Florida, Tampa, and other places where I would go in the past. And I was like, yeah, but I am in Chicago. So that was a very weird realization. Now, just to correct things, I did go out at some point. I took an Uber. I was like, I feel like I'm cooked in the house, so I needed to get out, and that's what at some point I did, and that was nice, even if it was only like for an hour, a couple of hours. I've been walking and catching Pokemons, writing things down, enjoying food, and that was good. That was really good. So we are now in week 3. Well, actually, we are starting week 4. Can you believe that? Starting week 4 already. So I'll be here actually 5 weeks in total. So, but it's over half that I'm here. So that's why I was looking at, okay, what has been happening. And like I said, today is about Chicago, but it's also Friday Night Live. So that means that I do reflect back on other things that have happened this week. And in this case, I'm also sharing a little bit about what was going on in Florida because it was very important. And at some point, my friends and I will be doing a live together where we are going to talk about what identity theft does to you. And this is major. It is major. I mean, we are talking not only about people robbing you blind, because that's what they do, it's also about people not believing you that it's happening. It's not just about temporarily robbing you blind, those people actually want to get involved in stealing your identity so they can get all the benefits too. That's going to be a bit of a problem. So yes, it goes a long way. It goes a long way, really. And what got me upset was that Apple actually, and I didn't hear this. I wanted to call them, but apparently she had already done so a few times. They didn't much. They didn't do anything practically, basically for her. That's not my experience when I normally go there and I say, okay, can you check my phone? If something is going on, they will do so. But in this case, it, you know, I do believe that they were able to monitor what was going on. And I don't know how they did it, but we know that people can hack other people even from the other side of the world. So it's no surprise. So hopefully, this is also a warning to you. Please pay attention to where you look in, what you see, and always make sure that what you spend is actually yours. Now, getting back to Chicago, because one of the things that I realized once again is, and I'm not going to say that I haven't been greeted nicely in different states like LA and in Florida. But Chicago is different. I noticed it when I got picked up. And I'm still noticing it every day. Chicagoans are different. And whether it is because of the people that I've seen or the way they talk, it's, Chicagoans make you feel welcome. That's all I can say. So when I arrived, of course, I was tired. That's what traveling does to you. But I was also very excited. And well, one of the things that I did do when I was in Florida, I was like, okay, where am I going to stay? Am I going to stay downtown like I did last year? Or am I going to stay in the outside skirts of Chicago? And well, I chose to do the latter. And I'll honestly say, we got here when it was already dark, and I'm not sure how long we have been driving, but there was a lot going on at the airport, so I had to wait for a while before the person was there. He couldn't help that. It it was just pure chaos. Well, it wasn't chaos, but it was going so slow, and just getting out of the airport, that took a very long time. So I'm very happy that there was a fixed price, and I felt really sorry for the Uber driver, but he was great company. That much I can tell you, and I did leave a big tip. I mean, that's the only thing you can do after all for them to be compensated. So, but driving, I was like, I don't recognize this, I don't recognize that. And that's probably because normally I used train, and of course, Chicago O'Hare is in a very different part than where downtown is. Which also brings me to why I did choose to stay here in the outskirts. Well, first of all, I've got a studio of my own. I mean, there's a huge fridge, there are possibilities to be cooking, and I'm not just talking about a microwave. And, well, best up everything. So it's easy to stay here. The supermarket is straight behind this building. So, going places is easy. The other thing is, and I experienced it today again, is that when it comes to the pace buses, so those are the buses around Chicago in this area, ooh, they make you wait. They make you wait. And the thing was, I actually left well on time, saw two buses leave, and then it was like, well, the next one will be there in 15 minutes or earlier. Nothing. So I waited for half an hour. I started walking to go to a different bus stop where also other buses would come. And of course, that's when I saw one bus pass me. So the thing was that I felt like something was going on. And why? Because I saw all these lights in the background. And I was like, hmm. Now, going back 1 second to Florida, I did meet up with a number of friends. That was nice. Not all the friends, but that's also on me. And part of it is because I didn't actually tell all of them that I was there. But the ones I did hang out with, especially one in particular, that was nice. That was nice. At some moment, this is not going to happen anymore. But last night I was there. He dropped by, and we talked about so many things. And well, one of those things had to do with performing, and I was a little disappointed to not have seen them rehearse. So he's in a band called Crimson Glory, and I would have loved to see that, but we got notified too late. So if we would have gone there, it was only going to be like 5 minutes, and it was like, okay, this is not going to work. So we talked about it, and I'll probably will see him the moment that I return to the Netherlands, and he's actually over there. Well, think about that. Anyway, getting back to Chicago, I arrived on Wednesday late, and so on Thursday I knew they would be recording, but instead I slept in late, and oh my god, that felt so wonderful. So for the first time in, well, almost 3 weeks, I didn't have to live up to schedule because, well, those first 4 days, well, actually, the fifth day too, I was living up to the schedule of, first of all, training, of course, 4 days in a row. And the fifth day was crazy because we went to the airport at such an early hour. And we did it to save costs, basically, so it made sense to split costs. But this was like literally, I slept for a few hours and then we had to go already. And then, of course, going to Florida, it was kind of similar. I mean, when you're staying at friends, even though they leave you alone, you do hear things are, and then at some point when you wake up, it's, well, in this case it was immediate interaction. That was not the case in the previous years that I've been here, but this time around it was. And then there were a lot of phone calls with my own clients, and it was a funny thing because, one of those clients actually had less hours and we spoke more than ever on the phone. So we actually need to have that changed. But, well, that's a different ball game, and I guess that's one of the things that I actually did a lot. We talked a lot about what was going on in her world. So in this case, one of the clients. So getting back to Chicago, because that's what I basically said. We are going to talk about Chicago. It's, well, first of all, I'm experiencing freedom. I'm on my own. And it's a little bit weird because the previous times that I was in Chicago, I was with Joe. You remember Chiquido? And Chiqui Joe, well, she couldn't go with me this time around. And yeah, that's weird to say the least. I love having her around. Chicago is, of course, also her thing. I mean, CPD, Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, they're all recorded here. So, yes, it's, yeah, something that she has to be part of. So, yesterday, or, well, it's actually not yet. Well, technically it's yesterday, but a few hours ago when I was there this evening, earlier this evening, I took a lot of pictures and I also recorded a few videos just, so she could see what was going on and be part of this. And it was actually kind of nice. So, what I noticed, and I didn't realize this, but 2 years ago I was here too. So, normally in September I like to travel to the US. Of course, during COVID, it was a whole different ball game. But apparently, I had made a lot of friends. Well, maybe friends is a big word. But it was the same, which I actually experienced in LA. A lot of people, oh, they said, "Oh, Lady Lexi." And I was like, "Oh my God, how do you know me?" And, well, apparently, they always see me online. And so they remember me from seeing online and being who I am. And I don't feel like I'm that much involved, but apparently I'm more involved than I think I am. So being here, one of the ladies at the desk, Charlie, said, "Oh, welcome back." And I was like, "Oh, that's so nice." And being there tonight, I got to realize that I had talked to so many people back then. And it was actually kind of nice because not long ago I did this interview with Tommy Berg, who had been behind the camera for 5 years at CPD. And unfortunately, we didn't get to meet up in LA. He actually went to Chicago when I was going to Florida. So we were at the airport at the same time. We just didn't see one another. And when I get back, I am planning on seeing him. That would be very nice. So I was wearing this shirt, and as you can see here, this part actually is something that relates to firefighters. Now I'm going to show you something else, and that's this. So there you see that same logo. So people were a little bit like, "Are you a firefighter? Are you not?" I got it multiple times, which was actually kind of cool. Um, but they were okay with me standing where I was, and I actually got to talk to people because I wanted to know, is Lucci there? He wasn't. And then I asked them if they knew Tommy Burke, the people who were behind the cameras. Yeah, we know them. Tell them we said hi. And then I got to stand somewhere watching a little bit. And, well, one of the guys who said there was actually also one of the guys who was behind the camera, not just in Chicago, but also in LA. And we got to talk, and it actually provided me with a good spot. I said, "Can I stand here? Am I not in the way?" And they said, "No, you're good to go." And then at some point, someone said, "Please don't air this." I said, "No, I know the rules." So the rules basically are you can take pictures and all that stuff, but you wait until it gets aired. And that's when you basically publish what you've seen. And like I said, just like 2 years ago, I'm so impressed with what's going on. Now, when I was standing to this guy who is called Don the Dragon, we got to talk about a number of things. And at some point, I heard someone scream, "Laurie!" And I was like, I'd seen that woman with the camera before. I remember her from 2 years ago. But I didn't know that this was Laurie Allen. And Joe uses a lot of pictures from Laurie Allen. Of course, she always says this is from Laurie, and she always thanks her. And well, Laurie makes the most amazing of pictures. I love how she captures emotions and all that stuff. And well, at some point, I walked up to her. I said, "Are you Laurie Allen?" "Yes, that's me." I said, "Oh, I love your pictures." And I said, "Do you know Joe?" And she said, "Yes, I do." So I showed a picture of Joe and me. And I said, "Well, if Joe wanted to be here, but she couldn't make it." And we got to talk. We got to talk about the program that she was actually using from Adobe. And she actually got to show me how easily it works. So I'm like, okay, yeah. When I get back, I need to start using that stuff too. I haven't done it yet because there's always a lot of work involved learning a new program. But, well, I did buy an amazing camera. Well, actually, I've got two. And I haven't used it yet to its full potential. I did photograph some concerts and also sent pictures to people. But I also get stuck doing a bunch of pictures that I'd taken a year ago somewhere else. So I was like, okay, what does she do? And she showed it to me, and it was like, oh my God, that's so simple. So yeah, we got to talk, and at some point, I went to the people who are responsible for light. And I remember talking to Trevor 2 years ago, and I was like, that guy that I'm seeing looks like Trevor, but it's not Trevor. But in case I'm mistaken, I am going to go up to the guy. So I walked up to him and I said, "Are you someone who just looks like Trevor, or am I mistaken?" And well, then he said, um, well, he actually told me his name, and I wrote it down. And at this moment, I'm so bad at recalling names. I do know it was with the C, and like I said, I wrote it down, and now I want to know. So let's see what I wrote down. Let's see, it's I don't know where I wrote it down. That's basically what happens when you do certain things. Oh, yeah, yes, here I've got it. Well, actually, I don't have it, but I know I wrote it down, and I'll probably get to the name just in a little bit. But it was kind of nice to ask, is this person here? Is that person here? And just seeing it, it felt like, oh, I was here like last week. So that's what I mean with, Chicagoans are so friendly. It's, they have a way of making you feel welcome. Now, I also have another hobby, and you actually saw it just now. I like to collect shirts. And so these are shirts from fire stations. And I showed you the front, now let's show you the back. So, yeah. So, this one, they showed it to me, and they say it's called the House of Eight. And then actually, what was said was originally it was the House of Hate, and we didn't like that, so we brought something positive to it, and then it became the House of Eight. Now, besides becoming the House of Eight, it was they everything has an eight in there in case you've missed it. But they were also very proud of their firehouse, and why? Because they have one of those really, really, really big aerials, and there are apparently only two in the US. So one is at that firehouse, and the other one is in Missouri. So I got to understand why, because there are a lot of high risers, and especially downtown, and more high rises are being built. So they are very specialized. And guess what? It is called number eight. So yeah, it was kind of special to be talking to the guys, and I'm like, well, I'll probably see them again because I've noticed that Chicago PD sort of records in the same neighborhood. Well, it's not entirely true. I mean, Chicago's a big city, after all. But I wouldn't be surprised if I would come back there again when they are recording. So we'll see what's going to happen. Well, in this case, um, he told me a little bit about the history, and especially that part about making it positive really spoke to me. So that's a good one, and I could tell he was very proud of the places where he was. So of the places of the place where he was, and well, we got to talk a little bit about other firehouses, and he talked about Firehouse 51 or 81, probably I should say, depends on which time of day it is. So he asked me if I had been there, and I said, yeah, I've been showed around. And well, and then we got to talk about who was there actually, and I showed him a picture, and he said, yeah, he's such a good guy. And well, that's what I mean with it felt like I was networking. Well, actually, I don't know if I said so during this live, but I said so to a friend. It feels like I'm networking because everybody was asking, so what are you doing and what brought you here? And of course, the first thing I will tell is that I had training, and then they will ask, what kind of training did you have? And then I say, well, um, it's about coaching. Well, the coaching summit was about coaching, but it is always about a combination of personal development and marketing. And well, so they ask me what I do, and then I tell them I'm a coach, and then of course they ask me what kind of things do you do. So I, depending on, I may vary a little bit in what I'm saying. So part of it has been and always will be about giving people perspective again. People want to opt out, which means that they need to learn to speak up and speak out. So I'm functioning as a role model, especially locally. I actually show them what it's like and what they can do, because I might actually do the phone calls for them initially. And well, of course, I do a lot of training where I teach people to speak up and speak out. But yeah, when they said, well, it must be rewarding, and it is rewarding when people actually get their life back. And, it might not still be where they want to be, but there's perspective again. And that is so, so immensely important. So I was like, I don't know, I got this feeling like things might actually end up differently over here than I considered at first. Yeah, but it feels good to be talking to all the people. This guy, he Jesse, he is going to retire, and he said in 11 days. So I was like, oh, well, then I might still be here, or I'm just leaving. And he said, no, it's 1 day on and 2 days off. So actually, it's in November. And I was like, oh, but then I'll be back home. So what I'm going to do is I am going to send him a card from the Netherlands. And, those are the little things that I like to do. Just like I shipped a couple of cards to the Netherlands, especially to the young ones over there. So I probably need to buy another card for another one. I know that they love to have actual proof, you know, like actually having a card. And well, I would say it's a small thing to do, but well, since I was cooped up in the house, it took me a long while before I actually was able to get the postcards. And when I did, then of course I also needed to get stamps. And so the last day on the way to the airport, we got the stamps and the cards got shipped. But well, now of course I'm in Chicago, so I can do and pretty much do and go where I want to go. So that makes things a lot easier. And I do know what to look for. That's something that I've learned in all those years. But I was like, okay, I try to make, to give meaning to things, to assign purpose to things. And well, like I said, I just arrived here in Chicago, and I was like, okay, so what's going to happen here? And I'll honestly say one of the things that I always love to do is do some shopping around here. So I wrote down, well, if I want to do some shopping, that's going to be done on the weekends. So fortunately, I know a little bit about how the recording schedule works. And well, they basically record during the week, which means that during the weekend, it's time to do other things. But I was also like, okay, this is a place where I can go out again and just write and be myself. Now, the good news is when I was in Florida, we did go get some groceries, but of course, you can get groceries over there in big sizes and in huge numbers. And you can actually order ahead of time and then just pick it up from the parking lot, which is kind of nice. Then again, I also love to be at the store, so I actually recorded a little video. I don't think I've posted it just yet. I think I recorded it earlier today, so yeah, that's why I haven't posted it just yet. And well, a couple of things that we did over there, I have adopted, which I'm doing over here, which makes it just a tidbit easier to do certain things. One of the not so, well, I cannot really blame them. But if you want to use cutlery here and pots and pans, then you need to buy them. And of course, where I'm going to leave them, right? So I try to avoid those kind of things. And because of a few things that we did, I actually got to appreciate the what you can do with kitchen towel. And oh my god, it can serve as a lot of things. So that's a good thing. And they actually have the same microwave over here too. So that makes things a lot easier as well. Now, apart from that, I realized that they were recording at night. That gave me an advantage to do certain things during the day. And I also was like, okay, I'm going to leave in time, which was a good thing, considering that I had to wait for the bus. Now, I did miss a little bit about the recording, but I'm not sure if that was a bad thing because I got to talk to all these people who were already at the second location. So what I did was actually ahead of time, I was like, okay, I know I need to travel back. Now, the part when it comes to L trains, that's the easy part. But then when you arrive back, then of course I still have to take the buses, which also meant half an hour waiting when I actually arrived. But it was that wasn't much of a problem, and it's nice to actually know that the bus was still driving. Now I always have a fallback plan, and it's called Uber. So it's a short drive to go to the hotel. So that's something that can be done as well. So, that's one of the reasons that I actually went here because I'm familiar with what I can do and what I not can do. So that's a good thing. Well, one of the other things about recording in the evening is that I was like, okay, which places are safe to walk and which places aren't. And I usually just talk to the people about it, which works quite well. And that made me decide that I wanted to leave in time, which is what I did. Now, I did a lot of walking. Not that I'm such a fan of a lot of walking, but sometimes you cannot get around to it. And I can tell you, I can feel it that I did so. So I'm so happy that I have both braces here. It makes such a difference that I've got two knee braces, and well, they are kind of huge. So they support me in, even though they're for one joint, the stability reaches way beyond that one joint. And that's nice. So I can stand for a longer period of time. And well, of course, I also did sit and lean against fences and all that stuff. So, but yes, I did get some cash money when I was in Florida. And well, I also spent it. No, not in Florida. I actually spent it in here in Chicago because well they did a fundraising for people with mental disabilities. So exactly that amount which I had, which I needed for the shirt, wasn't there anymore when I decided to buy the shirt, and it was like the moment that I got in it was like, oh no. And then I had to get back to the L train, get the money. Well, actually, it was across the L train where they had a gas station over there. And well, I actually went to Dunkin' Donuts. And for those who know me, they know I'm a huge Starbucks fan. But Starbucks wasn't in the area, so I decided to actually go for Dunkin'. I wasn't impressed, I'll honestly say. But I was happy because I'd been traveling for a long time, so it was nice to actually get some extra fluids. Now, getting back, yeah, I'm happy I got the shirt. It's always a nice way to make conversation. And when you enter the firehouse, and when I have a purpose, it's always easier. So I now know that I have to look for people, and then I have to ask, do you sell shirts? Which they usually do. And he said there were like 100 firehouses in Chicago. I totally believe him. And they all have their own story. And that's why it's so nice to actually figure out, like, hey, what's going on? What's the story behind everything? So I showed them that every once in a while I actually do record in the shirts because, well, that is what I do. And I could see that they were like, okay, what is she talking about? And because I use subtitles nowadays, not for every live, but for the shorter ones, I could see that they were looking at it, what I was sharing, and all that stuff. And well, that's the whole goal behind subtitles, that people can actually watch it without listening to the sound. Now, having said all of this, you know, on the one hand, I feel like in a short amount of time, I have experienced already so much here in Chicago. And one of the reasons that I experienced so much was that yesterday, actually, there was a complete scene here in front of the door. So, a motorcyclist, he got hit by a car. So, apparently, and this is different from the Netherlands, they have a turning lane. And, well, where one ends, that's where the other one starts. And the driver of the car apparently had gone over the turning lane of the guy who came from the opposite side. She hit him. He tried to hold his balance, couldn't, and well, it was not a pretty sight to see the motorbike. Apparently, he did survive, so that's a good thing. And it was so funny because my first question was, "Is the guy okay?" And then at some point, someone else came, "Is he dead?" And it was kind of funny. Like, okay, what do you ask? Is he still alive? Which most people did, or are you going to say, is he dead? And I was like, well, that's a way of doing things. And well, we had a little fun when it came to um, all the recordings and also the pictures. So what I didn't realize is that Lori also takes pictures of, like, this is the crime scene, and it was like, yeah, this is a bit boring compared to taking pictures of people acting and all that stuff. But well, it does the job. She said it a little bit differently, but it was. I could see where she was coming from, but it did show me pretty well what you could do with all the other programs. So that was kind of nice. So going back to what happened in front of the door, they actually had crime scene investigators coming over. So I know from Holland that at some point when something has been going terribly wrong, they use tape and you cannot get there because they want to investigate, maybe actually re-record what happens, as in they might test things like the speed and all that stuff. And I was a little surprised to see that they went through her car, like what's in there, testing for substances too. And well, I got to talk to someone who actually stays in this building for years now. Apparently, that's normal, and it was kind of funny because the first lady behind the desk actually said, well, there are people who have lived here for 3 years, and actually got to talk to two of them that same day. And well, we got to talk about how safe it was. I said, Yeah, I remember when I got here that at night, fire alarm would go and we had to go downstairs. Why? Because either people were smoking underneath the window or they were cooking and they didn't know how to. So I actually got instructions: open the window just a little bit, put on the ventilator from the microwave. Well, I can tell you, I figured out how that worked when I was in Florida. I remember she has the same one. And it was such noise, and I didn't know how to turn it off. And well, that made a big impression on me. And use the ventilation from the bathroom as well. Okay, so now we know what we gotta do. So that's a good thing. But apparently, there actually have been two fires in this place ever since it got built. So I actually learned a lot about its origins and what used to be here, which is actually kind of fun. And I also heard that nothing much is going on these days anymore, which is true. And then we got something going on in front of the hotel. But yes, I also recorded a few videos of the photographer, taking pictures and all. And the guy who I talked to, who was here like 3 years, he actually helped out. And I was a little surprised to hear that even when they had secured the scene with ribbons and everything, so it says probably like "Do not enter crime scene," that people just walk through it, so ruining evidence, and other people were actually scooping up evidence to take it home. So he told them, no, you can't do that. And well, that's a good thing, he did. But yes, um, it surprises me what some people do. Just, I know, I guess because they can. Well, I don't know if I can go for hours at this moment. I think I've said the most important things. So I do want to get back to one thing specifically, which is consistency. I talked a lot about consistency because last week and the week before it was kind of hard to be consistent. First of all, it was because I was in a different country, and then, all the things that were happening, all the impressions that I totally sort of forgot to do the things that I normally did. So I talked a lot about consistency when I was in Florida, and well, actually, the word is not so much consistency as it is about pushing through. So when you want to go to the next level, which is what my Chicago Courage Challenge is all about, then it's about, okay, what do you want to achieve and what are you showing people? So one of the things that I'm doing is showing my behind the scenes footage so people know actually what inspires me and what's going on. And for those who are interested, you can buy the course. It used to be a 3 day challenge. Well, actually, it is a 7 day challenge, which was for free. But by now, I gave you two opportunities to get it. So by this time, it's going to be a paid version. But if you actually want to buy it this time around and you are watching today, you can do so for a discount. Then you do have to leave comments so I know it's you and that you have been watching. So if you refer to the Friday Night Live, then I know what you're saying. But yes, it's back to a price of 297, and that's actually already a sort of discounted version. Now, I'm not going to say what's included in all of it, except for there are meditations in there are worksheets in there, and the people who actually have been going through, they said, oh, yeah, every lesson, and it takes time because you want to ponder on things. And that's good. I want people to think about, okay, what are they going to do? So they actually can take themselves to the next level. Now, of course, I am here. So if you want to meet up in person, that can be done too. But if you're like, well, you know what, I for now just want to go to the next level, then make sure that you hit me up. And I do have a link, so I'll put it in there too. But like I talked about with someone else, and actually I didn't come up with it, there is something about this city when it comes to the architecture, when it comes to the history. That's exactly why I like to show people around here and do the coaching at the same time. And it felt really good when the person said it. So actually, Don, the camera guy, said it. And Don the Dragon. I love that nickname, don't you? And that makes sense. That made total sense because it's one of those things that just, ever since I got here, it was like, I love this city. I totally love it. And it has to do with the people over there, but it also has to do with the history and the buildings and the architecture. It's one of those cities that tells a thousand stories, I guess. Now, I also have a question for you because I always end life with a question. Well, sometimes I say I'll see you again. Um, but the question in this case is, what is the next level that you want to achieve? And think about that. What is it that you said I am going to do, but you haven't been able to do just yet? And then going back to consistency, basically it is about focusing and working on that one thing so you can make it totally amazing. So when I was in Florida, I did work on that one thing because I was very distracted because of what was going on. I didn't do what I actually wanted to have done. But now I'm back here again. I have all the time to actually work on perfecting certain things and also just, capturing new footage because, like I said, I love this city. So, yeah, that's something that I'm going to do. But then again, the question is, what are you going to do? Well, let me know, and I'll talk again to you soon.